Hey, everybody, welcome back. Here we are. It is Wednesday, October 2nd. Tracy, good to see you. Good to see those of you here with us live today. We're glad that you were able to find us. Those of you that did, it's weird to be back, isn't it?
It is energizing to be back.
What we're going to do today is catch all of you up on what happened through the July 2024 exams. And then we're going to point towards the February 2025 exams, tell you what's happening generally, make some announcements, talk about things that we're doing and things that are coming up, particularly the boot camp at the end of this month. We're going to be pretty informal today. Normally we dig in and do a little more substance and usually have a little more inspirational discussion, but today we're just trying to get everybody back into the process of thinking about bar exam. And if I seem a little disjointed, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, in the time since we had our last conference, I got married and then I went on my honeymoon and I got back a day ago, ridiculously jet lagged, but I'm here. And Tracy has promised to keep me on target and on track, but I am getting my sea legs back under me, or my land legs. There has been a lot going on in the bar exam over the past couple of months, and we want to catch you up on as much of that as we possibly can. If this is your first time on the webinar and the podcast with us, welcome. There is a chat box and you are welcome to post your questions or comments. Tracy will be monitoring that. I get distracted so easily and then I forget what I'm doing. Tracy will let me know if anything comes up. Normally we try to answer any questions you might have that come in during the week. There aren't a whole lot of those right now as people are just getting underway and starting with their studies, if they are studying for either the February or July 2025 exams. But if you've got something on your mind, by all means, put it in to that chat box. Am I missing anything, Tracy?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. This is relatively informal. We're just going to work our way through it and see what we've got and tell you what's going on. I think a good place to start today is to talk about the July 2024 exams, the results a little bit, and what happened. And I thought where I'd start with that today would be to talk about the topics that were tested and the reaction that we got from our students coming out of those exams in brief, because we haven't talked with any of you since then. So that's what we're going to do first. Let's start with Florida. And Florida exam, the results have come out. We'll talk about those numbers in a minute, but I want to talk first about what was tested on the exam. This was and I think I would say across the board, the July tests were pretty straightforward and not a lot of surprises. I'm loath to use the word predictions, although I know that's the term that gets used. I did videos before the exams and I talked about trend lines and things that I saw coming. It was accurate across the board, as far as I know at this stage. In Florida, I was very accurate about where we were going to go. The exam in Florida contains 3 essays, 3 Florida multiple choice sections, and the MBE. The 3 Florida essays were, the first one was in criminal law and procedure and had a crossover with Florida ethics. It was challenging, but relatively straightforward. The second topic was family law with Florida con law and ethics. The third essay was real property, torts, and ethics again. Pretty much the way I called the exam, thought it would be those subjects. When it came to the Florida multiple choice, we have Florida civil and criminal procedure. That's required, so no surprise there. The second broad topic was business entities, which included UCC Articles 3 and 9. Again, expected. The third multiple choice topic was Florida evidence, a toss-up whether they were going to do evidence or wills, but they went with evidence. So those are the topics in the Florida exam. Since we're talking about Florida, maybe this is a good time to talk about the results in Florida. Florida results did come out a week ago or so. And this is, in my view, probably the second hardest exam in the country, certainly challenging to get through the test. In Florida, the results were an overall pass rate. There were about 2,900 people that took the exam, less than we usually see in Florida in July. We had a lot of first-time takers, and the overall pass rate was 65%. Back when I took the Florida bar exam, the pass rate was more in the mid to upper 80s. It's certainly more challenging today. The number that's most important to us generally is the repeat bar taker rate. And in Florida, the repeat bar taker rate is 21%. That's an important number because that's usually a bellwether to what we're going to see in California, Georgia, New York, Texas. Typically, we'd like to see 25 to 30% for repeater pass rate, but it wasn't that. It was 21% in Florida. So that's a challenging number. The first time bar taker pass rate in Florida was 77%. But I have to put asterisks around all of these numbers, particularly in Florida, because there is a relatively pernicious practice here, which is to characterize someone as a first time bar taker only if they have just graduated from law school and sitting for the first bar exam after their graduation date. In other words, if you graduate from a law school in May and you don't sit for the July exam, you decide your first exam will be in February, we would think you're a first time bar taker in February. But they don't count it that way. They only count it if you're coming into the first exam to which you're eligible. So there's a lot of maneuvering by law schools to decide who's going to be called a first time taker. Unfortunately, what a lot of law schools do in Florida is that they look at their bottom half of their class and they suggest to that group that they sit out the first exam and either study or work. That way they don't get counted against the first time taker pass rate. It's really a weird system. And when you hear about pass rates, take it with a grain of salt. Also, when you hear bar review companies telling you that they have X% pass rate, that's impossible to know. You should pretty much ignore those kinds of numbers. But 21% is a sobering number, isn't it, Tracy?
It is a sobering number. But here's what I want to say, which is what I say at the beginning of every one of these cycles. There is no reason with this program and with your hard work that you can't be one of those 1 in 5 that passed. That means that 80% didn't pass. That's true. But 21% were successful. And we had successes in this last exam. So we know that our system works and it can work for you. So I want you to concentrate and focus on the fact that 21% did pass.
I think that's right. The passing number you need in Florida is a combined score of 136 on a 200-point scale. We have reports from some of our students of scores of 135, and those are not passing scores in Florida. That is incredibly frustrating. If you're one of those people, the bad news is obvious. But the good news is this happens every exam and almost without exception. On the next test, those people pass. I know it's frustrating. I know it's incredibly discouraging. And this is usually when I start getting emails from people saying, can I appeal my score? The answer is you can't appeal anything except your MBE score, which you can ask to have hand graded, which in my 30 plus years, I've seen 2 exams change because of hand grading out of probably 20,000. So it's very rare, but that's the reality. And I think to Tracy's point, if we're not part of the 21%, you can get there. This course will get you there. We had people that were successful and we invited some of those folks to do interviews with us. I'm hopeful that we'll do those in the next few weeks and we'll share those and post them with you. So if you're one of the successful Florida bar takers, congratulations. If you weren't, this is the time to get started, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. This is the time to get your head around the work and to plan out in your calendar how you're going to do the work. Because as you look through the course, obviously there's a lot to do here. It's 250 hours or so for the average. So this is a good time to start thinking about what your October plan will be, because before you know it, February will be here.
In fact, our 4-month countdown date is the end of October. So if you're getting results this month, you have a little advantage as far as we're concerned. I'd like to see anyone that was not successful or anyone coming to the course for the first time taking the February exam. This is when you should begin. Now, I know we've also got people taking the July 2025 exam. God love you. You're great to be doing this. You can stay at about 5 to 10 hours a week very comfortably, but you should be doing something. And I think that's a big part of what we want you to be doing. I will also say that everyone that took the July 2024 exam with us, your courses still remain enabled until we know your status. What I'm doing differently this year is inviting you to set up a personal one-on-one coaching call with me to go through those results. So we'll talk about your scores in person. For years, I just recorded videos and sent them because I thought it was too hard on people emotionally. But I'm going to try it differently this time. I'm asking that we try and reduce the tier level. It's hard, emotional, and tough to hear, the reality and the sort of objective reality. Sometimes I feel a little bit like a cancer doctor, but I think there's value in talking about it, talking about what we want to do. I've started those calls already. So if you have gotten your results and you're watching or listening to this and you want to talk about them, send those to me and we'll give you the link to schedule a call. Now, if you are hearing this and you are not one of the students in our course, we invite you also to send your scores and talk to me. We'll do a free study audit with you and talk about how we can help you pass the bar exam. Either way, you're good to go. So that's what we know about in Florida. The exam will be given in February at the Tampa Testing Center. So all the noise you're hearing in California and some other states does not apply in Florida. Everything stays as it has been. Interesting way to kick it off, isn't it? You just hold your breath and say, here we go. Any other thoughts about the Florida exam, Trace? Oh, I know one more thing I want to say about Florida. We have already taken the Florida essays and we have drafted our version of model answers to those 3 essays, and they are in your online digital Florida essay book too. Make sure you check that out. And I think that's helpful to see how we would have dealt with those. We could do that because Florida releases the essays right away. We haven't gotten them anywhere else yet. So that's where we're going there. All right. Let's talk about the next set of results and tests. Let me just talk about Georgia. Georgia is supposed to release results on October 4th. So that Friday, Georgia does an interesting thing. They say to applicants, don't tell anybody, including your bar review course, what was tested, how we did it, anything. There's a complete wall around the Georgia exam until Friday. We do know the subjects that were tested, but out of courtesy to the Georgia bar, we're not going to discuss it today. I'll tell you next week. I will say it was a challenging exam, as it often is in Georgia. Very long fact patterns, lots of questions, tough tests. Results come out October 4th. When you get your results, let us know, please. People think we've got all the results. We don't get any of them. They're not released to anybody. Only law schools get their own student list. There is no one, including any other bar review, that has a list of everybody that's passed in any jurisdiction. Good luck to those of you in the Georgia bar. Watch for your results on Friday, typically Friday morning. Then we'll talk about those results, that exam next week. Stay tuned for that. After the October 4th results, the next big state that comes out is Texas, October 7th. Tracy, you went to law school in Texas. Texas just does things differently, don't they?
Texas is just its own animal.
There's this weird tradition in Texas. The results are supposed to be released on a Monday. However, the justice in the Texas Supreme Court gets the results on Thursday afternoon and posts them himself. So I would expect Texas results Thursday afternoon. You may find out your results on Thursday afternoon or Friday, whenever this justice decides to release them. But the official release date is next Monday. Texas is part of the Uniform Bar Exam. We have gotten some results from smaller UB jurisdictions, notably Missouri, 38% repeater pass rate. So you can see that's much higher than we had in Florida. North Carolina, also in the UBE, and North Carolina's repeater pass rate was 41%. So you can start to see it's way better. Other states that had significant numbers of takers, and this is always the hard part, the sample size is so small. Alabama had a 15% repeater bar pass rate. We had some success in Alabama, didn't we, Tracy?
We had a pass in Alabama.
Way to go. Yay. And I won't name names, but we're pretty excited about that because when you see a 15% repeater pass rate, it is really exciting to see that happen. We've had some people in random jurisdictions that passed in the UBE. We're pleased about that. New York, Texas, DC, Illinois, those are the big UBE states. So they're just starting to release. What was tested on the UBE? There are 6 essays, and the first one was constitutional law. There was a substantive due process, equal protection, contracts clause question. There was also civil procedure. And of course, this is federal civil procedure. It was a motion to compel, a deposition disclosure. There were some motions, pretty procedural for procedure, I thought, and not jurisdiction, which was interesting. There was a family law question that dealt with child custody. There was a real property essay that dealt with adverse possessions, easements, and warranties. And there was a corporations essay that dealt with the business judgment rule, duties of loyalty, dividend payments, and so on. I was pretty accurate about what I thought would be on the exam. The reaction from our UB students was very positive, I thought, coming out of the exam. They felt well prepared and in pretty good shape. There are two performance tests given in the UBE. One was a legal audience, an objective task. The other was a legal audience, a persuasive task, which is just what we expected it to be. Some release dates besides Texas, New York. The best I can tell you is it will be before the end of October. My spidey sense says it will be next week, but you'll get an email and your score will be there and everything. Other jurisdictions in the UBE will release throughout the month of October. We will not be able to see those essays or performance tests until the last jurisdiction reports out for UBE, which is typically end of October. Occasionally there's a November straggler, but that would be our expectation. Texas later this week, New York, I think next week. We'll watch and see. One of the interesting things in terms of when results come out is New Jersey, which used to be really fast at getting the results out, is now next to last in terms of when they release results these days. And that's pain because that means we're all sitting here waiting to get the official word on these essays and performance tests. Tracy, I know you worked with a lot of our UBE students and you've heard the feedback. It was really very positive, wasn't it, coming out of the tests?
I think people felt pretty confident that their scores had gone up. There was one student who didn't think they had passed, actually did pass. So that was fun to let that student know. If you need to register for the responsibility exam, do it because you are already past the November deadline and you can't take it until March next year. Don't let that happen to you again based on thinking, oh, I didn't pass, whatever. You have to take that exam anyway. I think people were pretty confident that their scores had gone up, especially people who had worked with us one-on-one.
We didn't mention Amanda or Bobka. They are not on the call today, but they will continue their group coaching. Amanda will continue to coach with Tracy and me. So lots of opportunities for personal coaching. The last jurisdiction is California. California will release their results on November 8th, really late. So we go the whole month of October, no results from them. 1 week into November, get the results, and we're practically on top of Thanksgiving. What that means is if you were a July California bar taker and you don't feel confident about how you did, this is the time to resume your studies. If you don't do anything and wait until November 8th and your results are not favorable, you will be in a headlong panic to get ready for the February exam. And it's not fair, but that's the reality. And this year, the February exam in California, oh boy, we're going to talk about that in a minute. The reality is you got to move fast. So I would encourage you to do that. Now, let me back up and tell you what we can tell you about the California exam that was given in July. There are 5 essays and 1 performance test on day 1 of the exam. I seem to be pretty locked into what was actually tested. There was a corporations essay exam, dealt with stock and shareholder remedies. There was a real property question. This dealt with easements and the rule against perpetuities.
Everyone needs to have that in their practice.
Yeah. It'll be interesting when we actually see that question. I heard plenty about it starting on Tuesday night. There was a straight up California professional responsibility question, dealt with duty of care, offer, fee splitting. Pretty straightforward, I think, question the way it was described to me. Then we had a remedies question, which dealt with fraud. This was interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing this actual question. Some people characterized it as a contracts question. Some people thought maybe it was a torts question. It was apparently some sort of a remedies question. I'll be curious to see how that gets classified and what the question really was about. And then we had something really unusual. We had civil procedure. If you're a California student, you probably remember I've talked about the fact that while this subject is called California civil procedure, they've always tested federal civil procedure in the California civil procedure. This time they tested California civil procedure. First time ever. We're going to see what happens there. If you're going to make that kind of switch, tell us before you do it. But that's what they did. I hope everybody decided to follow our instructions and study California civil procedure since we provided that information, but that was a shocker. The performance test was a legal audience persuasive document. It was a closing argument to a judge at your bench trial. That's what we know about California in terms of the July exam. But, Tracy, we got to talk about February 2025 in California, right?
We do.
I want to preface all of this by saying, no matter what they do in California in February 2025, you're covered. We're ready for whatever direction they want to go. So here's the situation. The California bar examiners ran out of money and they can't afford to rent spaces to give the test. So they started negotiating to move away from the multi-state bar exam written by the National Conference of Bar Examiners. They ended up negotiating an arrangement with the Kaplan Bar Review Company for Kaplan to write a full exam, essays, performance tests, and multiple choice to be administered in February 2025. There's a few problems with this plan. One is Kaplan's Bar Review Company. Secondly, Kaplan's multiple choice questions actually have the same genesis as Celebration Bar Reviews. Essentially, whatever Kaplan has, we had it first. When Kaplan started talking to California, obviously they can't use the questions that we have, the questions that came out of the NCBE. So Kaplan basically said, we'll write new multiple choice. Well, everybody was happy with that except the NCBE, who quietly but firmly said, that's copyright infringement. These are licensed questions. So then the California bar examiners pulled away from that concept because they wanted to offer the exam at home. But instead of going to a test location, you could take the exam at home, like during COVID, or go to a test center, like a Pearson test center. This would save the Cal Bar millions of dollars. After several rounds of protracted negotiation, they decided with Kaplan that they would sign the agreement, but they would include indemnification clauses. And I guess the idea was we're going to sign the agreement with Kaplan and we expect to get sued, but Kaplan will indemnify us for the amount of the lawsuit. You can't make this stuff up. Everybody said, okay, so February 2025, you're going to write a new exam. Here we are in September of 2024, and nobody's seen this test. There's this interesting law in California that says you cannot change an exam like the bar exam fundamentally with less than 2 years notice, which is fair, right? If you're in law school, you should have to make the switch. But that presented a problem because as soon as they said it's not really a change, they're walking into the copyright infringement lawsuit. The California Supreme Court got questioned because they're the ultimate determination of the California bar. And the Cal Supreme Court said, you can't offer this test in February 2025. So as of last week, the test was off again, and we were back to something else, but nobody knew what it was. At the end of last week, the beginning of this week, there's now another announcement from the California bar that they're going back to the California Supreme Court, and they say, we've fixed the problem. I don't know how they fixed it. I don't know what they're doing. They have indicated they still intend to give an at-home test in February of 2025. I think there's still a 25-30% probability there will not be a February California bar exam. It's a real possibility. It's a game of chicken. California is the biggest jurisdiction for the NCBE. They are not going to allow their multi-state exam to be given at home. Yeah. Tracy, you agree? We've talked to the NCBE. There's no way that's going to happen.
I think with the cost cutting, that is their primary motivation, and they may go to one exam a year. We talked to NCBE and they didn't have further edification on this issue. So we're on top of it as far as we can be, keep you informed.
Yeah,
Don't stop
that's
studying if you're in
right.
California.
Yeah,
But
please.
you may want to consider taking the UBE in another jurisdiction. That's something you might want to get some coaching or mentoring help about.
Yeah. I just don't know what will happen. If it is the regular legacy bar exam, obviously you're covered. If it is a Kaplan drafted exam, you're covered. They're not going to change subjects. You're not going to suddenly have a different set of subjects than you've been tested. They cannot do that. And the exam has to be close enough to the existing exam to pass the 2-year smell test. So we're covered. I guess that doesn't give you a lot of comfort when I say I don't know. But honestly, we don't know. Nobody knows. And if you're a Kaplan bar student, Kaplan's got to leave the bar review business in California, the retail business. Come talk to us. We can help you. I don't know what they're going to do. It is such a weird situation. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's as much as we know will change. They're going back before the California Supreme Court on an expedited basis, but nobody knows exactly what they're going to tell them that's different. And it was so funny that when the California Supreme Court said, no, you can't give this test last week, the bar said, oh, that was just procedural. So there you go. If the exam is given at home, we have plenty of experience with that from COVID. We're ready to show you how to do that and what it means. It will still be a multiple choice exam. There will still be essays. There will still be a performance test. Beyond that, we don't know, and I don't think anybody else does either. Be aware. Anybody that tells you they know exactly what's going to go on in California probably don't. It has that feeling a little bit like I felt when we went into COVID. Really? What in the world is going on here? So that's where the world is. Have we covered enough of that craziness and chaos?
I think we should move on.
So that is the situation. One other piece of this is what's called the alternative pathways to licensure. A couple of West Coast states said, maybe we just won't give a bar exam at all. We'll allow you to be licensed through doing some apprentice work and work with other attorneys and so on. The media made a big deal about it, saying there's not going to be a bar exam. It's absolutely untrue and does not apply to probably anyone listening or watching us today. Unless you are in law school right now and a resident in a state like Oregon or Washington, this isn't going to apply to you. The devil is in the details. If you have already been out, you've taken a bar exam or not taken a bar exam, if you don't live in that state, if you can't work with an attorney for 6 months to a year, if you can't do the work required under these alternative programs, you're not going to get licensed there. Some of these states are still giving the bar exam. For all of the hype about alternative pathways to licensure, which I think have and validity, there will continue to be a bar exam. If you've got specific questions, reach out to me. We'll talk about it in your situation. All right. Final
Jack,
piece,
go ahead.
the final piece I wanted to talk about is the next generation exam, because there have been some announcements about that. Florida has announced that they will join the next generation bar exam starting in July of 2028. We think New York is going to, but they haven't officially announced it. California has said no. We haven't heard from Texas. So the world of bar exam. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, we have a question in the chat, so I want to make sure that we get that out.
Okay, let's do that, and then we'll talk about it. Go.
And I could answer this student directly, but I think this is a question that a lot of students have when they purchase a course. This student wanted to know if the bar maps are included in the basic subscription package.
No.
That's an upgrade, and you can go into your course and purchase that upgrade. What, Jackson, we have quite a few new students coming in. Why don't you describe for a minute what Bar Maps is and why it would be beneficial to have it?
Bar Maps is a supplement to the course in which we created mind maps for every subject on your bar exam. They're pre-made, computerized mind maps, and you just add to them. It's a wonderful resource. I think it's a great resource for retakers as well, because if you got bogged down making your mind maps the first time, you can get these and it gives you the template, the form, and the basics. There are 3 parts of bar maps. That's one of them. The second is that we've taken our video lectures and broken them into smaller subject items. So if you're retaking, you might not need to listen to a full 6-hour lecture. So you can get right to the part of the lecture you want very quickly. And then the third component is an audio version of the lecture that's been sound gapped to run at very high speeds, something you listen to, for example, while you're sleeping or walking or doing something else, designed to get to the non-conscious. It is a very reasonably priced product, and I would encourage you to look at it if you don't have it. Most of our students tend to add it. So that's what Bar Maps is.
Mind mapping is very important to your bar studies. It will save you a lot of time in the long run. And it is our alternative to note cards and trying to memorize flashcards. The difference is that flashcards and memory cards, you don't have any place to store those really in your brain. It just floats around in your brain without any kind of glue anywhere. Whereas mind maps is more relational. And mind maps will help you understand the law in relation to the subject matter and other law, other considerations you have to have. If you're a new student, you want to learn mind mapping, and Bar Maps is a great product for you. We teach based on the assumption that you're going to have your mind maps. So get started on those now. If you want to do an upgrade for personal coaching, we'll work with you on your mind map and on your essay writing. It's an important investment in your bar exam journey.
Yeah. Now, that's a great transition to talking about what we think is the best tool to get ready for the bar exam. And that's the live 2-day training that we call Bootcamp. Boot camp is coming up October 25th and 26th, I want to say. Right? Friday, Saturday. It's here in Denver. Lovely time of the year to be here in Colorado. Frontier Airlines flies to Denver for $19 from a bunch of cities around the country. Here's what boot camp is. Tracy and I will be coaching a very small number of people. It is the most hands-on coaching you're going to get. And for 2 days, we are going to work through essay writing. We're going to have you write. We're going to show you how to write. We're going to work on photo reading. Whether you've been a photo reader or not, I will show you how to supercharge it. We're going to work on mind mapping. You just heard Tracy talk about that. You will create mind maps. We will help you create them, show you how to do them. You'll be able to benefit from that process. We will be doing multiple choice practice using selective intuition and photo reading and all of those tools. And we will get those multiple choice scores up for you. If you're in the UBE, Georgia, or California, we will show you performance test writing one-on-one. There is literally nothing better for your results on the bar exam than coming to boot camp. And we know this because we've been doing boot camp for a decade and see remarkable results from people that come. The question that you're asking, I'm sure, is how much is it? The answer is that boot camp is a flat fee of $2,500, and you can pay for it in a single payment, or you can use monthly payments through our third-party companies, Klarna, Affirm, and Afterpay, or we can make arrangements with you for payments. We want you here. It matters. It makes a difference, and we don't want price to be the barrier. During boot camp, we're going to feed you lunch on Friday, dinner on Friday, breakfast on Saturday, and lunch on Saturday, and then you're out the door Saturday night. There are also very inexpensive but nice hotels in the area. We're in a little town called Parker, which is a suburb of Denver. It's a lovely place. We're going to keep this really small, maybe 5 or 10 people, but you got to register. You got to get there. So the way you do that is you go to the website, and under resources, there is a page for the boot camp, and it's got a link to register. You need to make at least a $500 deposit, and that will save your seat. What am I forgetting to say about boot camp here? Yeah.
There is no substitute for personal attention given to you by Jackson and me. We will work on your writing. We will make sure that when you leave the boot camp, you know how to write in the style that we recommend called FLAT writing. We will make sure that you know how to read. We will make sure that you've got a good start on your mind maps. And we will work on how you use your selective intuition to improve your score on the multiple choice part. The personal nature of it is what makes it so important. You can buy these things piecemeal, and we do recommend that, including coaching, but the integrated teaching comes through that boot camp and community building. The students bond with each other. They use each other for support because this is a lonely and isolating process. Meeting us in person, developing a professional relationship with us in person is invaluable to you as you go forward in this journey. We welcome you to Parker, Colorado for that purpose.
I did an interview with a student who passed the bar exam after repeated attempts. He came to boot camp and then he passed his bar exam. I asked him, was it worth it? He said, it felt like the most expensive thing I was ever going to do. He said, but then I realized what it was costing me to not pass the exam. And I decided I needed to make that investment in myself. I came and did it. And you'll hear Marvin say it was the best money he spent in all the years and time he had spent studying for the bar. We get that response over and over again. There are lots of videos up on the bootcamp page from people talking about what it meant to them.
And two of the people that passed went to
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah. Of course, we're still waiting to hear from others. We will have some successful prior boot campers or boot camp alums. They will come and talk via Zoom to you. But that part that Tracy was talking about, the relationship building, don't discount that. It really makes a difference to people. I would really encourage you. If you have been to boot camp and you have not been successful, reach out to us. Let's talk about what you need and how we can get you back in here. Sometimes it takes more than one dose. It is a game changer for almost everybody that comes. If you're on the fence about, should I come? Should I not come? Yeah, you should be here. You should definitely be here. When I started doing boot camp, Tracy, I had 50 to 75 people and it was chaos. Today, I've learned as I get older, I don't want to deal with that many people. So I just keep it quiet. And we didn't even announce it until today in any big way. We're going to keep this small because I like teaching in a small environment. I know you do as well. We have a lot of fun, it's a lot of work, but it is really worth being here. If you got questions, reach out, let us know. Man, I feel like I've been on a sprint here for 50 minutes. I think that's everything I want to tell you about group coaching, which is part of your course.
Probably in
Yeah,
December.
I think December.
We've
Well,
decided to wait until we get closer to the exam.
yeah, yeah. But individual coaching available right now, and Tracy and I and Amanda are all talking to students now. Definitely, you can be doing that. If you got your results, they weren't favorable, get in, start now, and get the coaching. Come to boot camp. That's still the best value, frankly. Boot camp's just a little bit more expensive than buying individual coaching. And trust me, you'll get more hours with me, more FaceTime with me, and with Tracy this way than you get in the individual coaching. I think it is well worth it to do that. All right. I think that's everything. Our plan for these webinars will be to continue to do them on Wednesdays. We've got one next week. I think we're going to take 1 week off after that and then back in, and we're ready to roll all the way through to the exam.
We're good to go all month.
I'm out of town. You don't think I am?
I don't think you are.
Listen, I was on an airplane for 23 hours straight.
Yeah,
I really don't know anything.
You leave the day after we have one.
Is that it? So I kind of sorry.
Keep track of you,
but
big brother.
it's great to see all of you back here. I'm excited to get started again. This will be my 75th bar exam administration. That is unbelievable. I am looking forward to it. And it's going to be a wild ride in some jurisdictions like California, but we know how to get you there. We can do it. I'm really proud of all of you that we've heard from so far. But those of you that have passed, congratulations. If you are not among the passing, whether you were in our course or not, don't give up. Don't let the bar exam bully you out of this. You can pass it. I have yet to meet the person that can't pass the exam. We know how to do it. So reach out, let us talk to you, let us work with you, let us help you. Trace, good to see you. Good to see everybody. We will be back next Wednesday, same time. At that point, we'll have some more results to talk about. We'll see what's new in the world then, and we'll find out maybe more about California. All right, everybody. Thanks so much, and have a great study week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.